Hi everyone! Welcome to Coffee with Lauren. I'm Lauren. This is my coffee, my beloved coffee. Today in our first of the series, we're going to be talking about something that I get asked questions about all the time. And it's called, well, what I get asked all the time is this believable? The title of the video is The Truth and the Lie, and we will figure that out when we get there. I get asked all the time by people if what they're writing is believable, or if I think that this particular thing that they're trying to create seems grounded or believable or whatever. And it's kind of a complex question, but it's also one of those questions that it's so obvious. Oh, there's my dog. There will be guest appearances by my dogs. Also, I'm trying to not let him bark, so I'm trying to keep him away from the window. Hi. He can just lick my hand. This is fine. You guys don't mind. So I get asked, is this believable a lot? It's a concern for a lot of people because writers get told to write in grounded ways or in realistic ways. And then there's also the really awful turn of phrase, not turn of phrase, but just the awful phrase of write what you know, which is stupid. But anyway, also you can laugh at me. I was a total nerd and I wrote notes. Okay, if you're gonna sit there, you can't bark. Like I'm a mom. Anyway, so I'm a total nerd and I have notes. So if you see me looking down, it's because I'm trying not to forget anything. I see you staring at something. You gotta go away. He's gonna bark at a squirrel or scare the ever bejesus out of everybody. Okay, so here's why you really shouldn't care if something is believable. Reality in fiction is relative. So sci-fi is an entire genre that's based off of the stuff that other people wanted to write because they weren't they wanted to explore different things and they didn't want it to be set in this reality. So reality really doesn't play, I mean, I don't want to say it doesn't play a part in what you're doing, but reality isn't the thing that you should be concerned with. Let's put it that way. Believable writing isn't what people think it is. Like when you hear, it's usually like, sorry, but it's usually people who don't know what they're talking about that are like, you should write in believable ways. Okay, but what does that mean? And it doesn't mean what those people think it means. It's just like a Princess Bride quote. I don't think that means what you think it means. How many times can I quote the Princess Bride? Let's count. So, to me, and to a lot of others, believable means genuine, and then genuine means truthful. Not necessarily factual, but truthful. What that entails is you have to find the thread of truth in your story and in what you're writing and what you're trying to create. So when you find the thread of truth, you're going to notice the emotional resonance is higher in whatever scene that you're creating, the world that you're creating. You have to find the emotional resonance. You have to stick with that. The thread of truth would also be finding the thing that propels the plot forward as opposed to just fleshing out the world, or creates character growth. It can also be both. Plots can move forward and characters can grow. There will be a separate video about that because that's really long, but it's possible. So you find that thread of truth as well. And then if what you're introducing also fits with the overarching themes of what you're writing or in the world that you're creating, and that you've set your story in, then that's the thread of truth. Thread of truth. I feel like there should be like, I don't know, like a meme or something of that. Anyway, if it feels authentic, like the bare bones of it is, if it feels authentic for what you're writing and for the world that you're creating, go for it. And here's the thing. So a lot of times, writers, as creative as we are and as in touch with our emotions as we are told by outside whatever influences, maybe teachers or mentors or whoever, when you're talking about like grounding something in reality and you're talking about making it believable and realistic. All of these words that I've just spent 2 minutes telling you don't really mean what they mean. We end up detaching a little bit from how we feel as the author. We stop to really register our own emotions about what we've written. And then we forget what we should be feeling with this. And we forget to keep in touch with the emotions that we feel while writing. Now, that sometimes means, crying or being upset, but more it's about the feeling of yes, that feels right, that feels good, let's go with that. That kind of like inner bell dinging, that's really important. So that's the feeling of authenticity that's like bubbling up inside of you. You can't see my hands, but they're like right under here. It's also like, it's an intuitive moment to kind of let you know, don't force anything in your writing. Don't force it. I can't tell you how many things I've read where it's clear that the person was forcing too much of what they thought readers wanted, or too much of what somebody else told them that this thing should have because it's in a specific genre or whatever. And it's just so, you can tell. Anyway, that's different. But don't force anything. If it feels natural to have talking squirrels in your story, have talking squirrels. Have them. Go for it. Have talking squirrels. Don't worry about if it's realistic to have talking squirrels. People might ask, how did talking squirrels come to be in this world? And that's something that you'll have to worry about. But if it feels real to you and it works for your story, stick with it. I also bring up talking squirrels in a second. More talking squirrels. So there's also issues with, I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Yes, so don't force anything. No forcing or taking out anything that you feel like you shouldn't be taking out. I think we also, as writers, feel the need to, it's almost like the Marie Kondo version of writing, where we're like, take it out, take it out, take it out. We just end up taking too much out, and then it's like, oh, I should have left that in, because it actually like propelled the story and it made it better, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway. Also, details can be the devil. What is the phrase? The devil is in the details? Yeah, it's true with writing. So depending on what you're writing, a few details can make you. Too many can break you. And here's what I mean by that. So, oh, there's the second one. That's Balder. That's the puppy. So you have to think of your story as the best lie you've ever told. And I mean, like, think back to when you were in high school and you ditched class and you had to tell your mom where you were because the school called and da-da-da. You have to think of a time when you were, one, the best liar you've ever been, and two, you have to think of the best lie you've ever told. Real quick. Think about that just for... Yeah, you have it in your head. That time that you told the perfect lie and it like made everything go smooth sailing from that moment on. That's what writing is. It's telling the best lie you've ever told, but also being genuine with it. If you give too many details, I'm going to use sci-fi as an example. Like if you're writing something and you give too many details about extraneous details that don't propel the plot forward, don't propel your character forward, don't really need to be in that scene, it ends up feeling like you're trying to convince them of a thing, that you're trying to convince your readers of what you're writing. And it's kind of like when you lie, because like a good lie is like, hey, where were you? And you're like, oh, I went and ran errands. That can mean anything. And somebody can go, oh, okay. And then it's, whatever. When you start to make up a lie and you say, Oh, I went to the bank first at 9:01 in the morning, and then I went and got coffee, and I was standing behind this woman in line with this big hat, and she was talking on her phone really loud, and then I went from there to the grocery store, and da da da. And when you start to add too many things in and too many specifics, hi, sugar. When you start to add in too many specifics and too many details that can get disproven, that's when your lie starts to fall apart. And that's when somebody's like, you weren't running errands, you were cheating on me, or whatever. No judgment. So if you give too many away, too many in the scene or in the work itself, can actually create kind of a problem, especially with sci-fi, because or in fantasy and like a lot of other genres, I'm not gonna lie. When you start to like dig into like the ecosystem of your world, say it's you're on a different planet, and then you start to give up all of these details about what the plants look like and the moons and the way that the sun works and the way that and then it just starts to, when you get too embedded in all of these details that really have nothing to do with the crime thriller that you're focusing on, that's when it starts to go and it just implodes, and it just makes it not believable because you're not sticking with the authenticity of the story. Like, you can say it's on a different planet, it looks like this, da da da, and then just keep going. Because nobody's going to question you. Nobody's going to question you. You can never let your reader know that you're lying. That's the thing. It has to be the best lie you've ever told, and you can never let your reader know that you're actually lying. And it feels kind of weird to say it that way, to be like, oh, you're lying. Hi. He's like, what are you doing? Also, I will be posting videos of the dogs too, because people love pets. So, and I've been told, post more about your dogs. So I'm going to post more about my dogs, so you'll get to see them more. But they can't help with writing. They don't know what writing is. Do you? Yeah. So anyway, to say that you should never let your reader know or think that you're lying, you just kind of have to treat it as if it just is. You just have to say, well, it just is. There are talking squirrels. They're just there. And you almost kind of have to be like, shrug. You have to kind of look them in the face. They're reading, so you're not actually looking them in the eye. But you have to be able to pull it off just convincingly enough that you go, yeah, they're talking squirrels. Like, not break. So it's like the best improv you've ever done in your life, too. Now, this seems a little daunting. I promise it's not, though. I promise it's not, like, that hard to do. I feel like this video is like saying, like, oh, you have to do this and you have to do this. It's really, but it's not that difficult to convince somebody you're lying, especially when you're creating the rules of this world. So if you don't want to if you don't want to have to give detailed explanations about everything, sorry about the dog barking, if you don't want to have to give detailed explanations about everything, then just don't do it. And that way nobody can also call you on your lie, because if you're not going to use science behind it, then anything can happen. So you're convincing them by basically being like, yeah, this planet has 3 suns and they're talking squirrels. Done. And people just have to accept that. And the thing is, readers will. They will absolutely accept it. Oh, now both of them are out the window. Oh boy. This could get interesting. Just describe the world that you're creating well enough that you feel like it's fleshed out, and then move on. Like I said, just kind of be like, yep, that's what it's like, and that's what's there, and we're done. Ta-da. That's all you have to do. In that, you have to be unflinching in your belief of the reality that you're telling, the reality of the story that you're telling. Be unflinching in it. What I mean by that is, like I was saying, if there are talking squirrels in your story, you just have to put them in there And in the writing, don't be too flimsy about, well, they're talking squirrels and nobody really knows why, and I'm not really sure what they do, and blah, 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 blah. And you just kind of, because you can tell, I think we've all probably read a piece where you can tell that somebody wasn't really sure about what they were writing. Was a little like, I don't know, maybe this might work. And you can feel it. You can feel it in the writing. So don't do that. No matter how fantastical it might seem, no matter how bizarre, no matter how involved it might feel, as long as you believe that that's how this reality works and that's what's involved, that's all that matters. You believe it, your readers will believe it. You don't have to give extraneous details about why it is a thing. Am I going to start playing behind me? That's going to be so obnoxious. Oh, he's chasing his tail. That's my dog. So just don't be flimsy about it. If you feel flimsy in that idea and you're not really sure, I would suggest leaving it in for the time being and then coming back to it. But if it keeps coming up that you're writing the story and you're like, why did I put these talking squirrels in here? I don't know. This is weird. Then you can kind of go, maybe I'm going to take the talking squirrels out. Or maybe they're not actually supposed to be squirrels. Maybe it's talking turtles or whatever. I'm just trying to get people to make a remake of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with talking squirrels. I don't know. But if you play around with it a little more, it becomes more solid. And you feel more solid in the details that you're putting in. And that's how it ends up feeling realistic. I mean, like, not to make a pop culture reference. I don't even know if it's technically pop culture yet. But a recent reference, I guess. Like, I'm watching The Umbrella Academy, and there's a talking, walking ape in a suit. Other than the 2 lines of dialogue that say that the eccentric billionaire guy whose house it is made him, that's kind of the only explanation as to why there's a talking ape. But you know what? I didn't question it. I didn't go, well, that's weird. Why is that? And, like, it didn't make me, I mean, it made me confused as to why he would make a talking ape. But other than that, it didn't make me stop believing in the entire world of the story simply because it was a talking ape. They put in 2 lines of dialogue of, like, yep, Master made him, and there's apparently a serum involved. Done. Because it's sci-fi or fantasy or both. It's like comic book hero stuff. Anyway, that's beside the point. But that's how it works. You just have to put it in there and don't back down. Ta-da! We're almost done here, folks, I promise. So anyway, it all boils down to believing in your ability to craft a world, any world that you can think of, and knowing that your readers will follow you along on that journey. We get so concerned. Is he just chasing his tail nonstop? This is the most ridiculous video. We're off to a great start here, folks. He is. He's just chasing his tail behind me. Okay. You know, some people would probably edit that out. I'm going to leave it in. You know why I'm going to leave it in? Because that's my reality. That's my reality. This is my dog chasing his tail behind me, being the most adorable and yet also the most frustrating distraction ever. Oh well. So if you as a writer, if you as a creator can believe in your ability to craft any world that you can think of, your readers and your fans and the people who are consuming what you're making will come along with you on that journey. You don't have to feel like you have to make all of these, you know, explanations as to why a thing exists. Don't feel like you need to create like a lexicon. Like, you don't have to go full on Tolkien about it. I promise. I promise you don't have to be Tolkien. I promise you don't even have to, like, I don't know who else went really in depth. Oh my God, you don't have to be James Cameron. Like, seriously, James Cameron just went, yep, this is what these people look like, and here's the ecosystem, and we're not really going to talk about stuff, but this is how it looks. And then he went for it. Ta-da. In his movie outgrossed himself. Like, he made billions upon billions of dollars off of that movie. And I'm not saying he didn't put work into it, but he also didn't spend 3 extra hours explaining to people why the ecosystem worked the way that it did. So if you are feeling like what you're writing might not be believable, just know that because it popped into your head, it's something to work with. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be in your story, but it's definitely something to work with. And it's definitely not a thing that you should be worried about whether it's grounded or realistic or believable. Because truly, like, there's so much out there that gets written and made that isn't grounded in reality at all, but is really wonderful, and it's really well done, and it's gripping, and it makes us feel as consumers, consumers. I say that as somebody who, like, you consume media, you consume what you're reading and what you're watching, and you put it into your eyeballs and into your brain, and it stays there. So it moves us, not because we know the physics of that world, but because of the characters involved. So if what you're writing feels, if you're a little unsure if what you're writing feels grounded, just know that as long as the characters are grounded, as long as the emotional resonance is there, and as long as your plot moves forward, it will find an audience that appreciates it. So you can make your crime thriller with talking squirrels on the moon, and people will love it. I will probably be one of those people. If you are writing a crime thriller about squirrels on the moon, I would like to be a beta reader. I would like to get that first copy. I just want to know everything about that. If that's what you're actually writing, please tell me. I want to know. I have so many things. Yeah, I would love to read that. So if you're actually writing that, please let me know. That would be awesome. Anyway, I hope that helps a little bit with the believable aspect of it all, and just know that we as writers are actually just really good liars, and that's all that matters. So just tell the best lie you've ever told, and know that you're doing a great job. Love you guys. Mwah. Bye.